Hi, a big welcome to everyone, and welcome to the Performance Plus webinars by MC Sachi Performance. Um, you can just think about the last time someone in your life actually asked you a question, right? And then immediately followed it up with, um, "Actually, I'll just ask ChatGPT." Uh, there's a survey that Bloomreach has run. Uh, and it just kind of showcases AI's influence on shopping and human behavior, right? Where almost 50% of people say that they trust AI more than their their closest friend in terms of getting an opinion in terms of choosing what to wear, right? So your group chat is officially out of a job. But yeah, I think it's a very natural evolution where we've kind of reached this gradual pivot, right? And that's the story that we're here to tell today, because exactly what's happening at this individual level, right? That you're experiencing, that I'm experiencing. This is exactly what's happening at scale across um, hundreds and millions of decisions, right? Whether it's shopping, whether it's travel research, whether it's a work query, whether it's how to write an email better, whether it's how to kind of understand a concept better, right? All of these things are happening at scale, and this pivot at an individual level is slowly rewriting the rules of how brands get discovered, considered, as well as chosen. What we've tried to do in today's session, which is rethinking channel mix, right? Rethinking your media mix and your channel mix in the AI era is exactly about that, right? Is exactly about this full funnel of discovery, consideration, and choice. So we look at how AI is disrupting the customer journey. Uh, how has it impacted traditional discovery channels? What, how are things changing? What is under pressure? Where are the new growth opportunities emerging? And what strategies marketers need to start thinking about now? So we're very excited to have you with us. And just I'll maybe go through some quick housekeeping tips. Eventually, this is an informal educational session. Uh, you can ask questions using the Q&A feature, and you will be on mute throughout. So please feel free to use that feature to ask whatever questions you have. You can kind of read the rest of it on the slide. Um, just to introduce myself, um, and I'll start with a short introduction about the company. Some of you may have heard of us, some of you may have not heard of us. We are essentially a global leading performance marketing agency. So we help any brand that wants to grow on digital, um, and is looking for expertise and support and know-how on the same. We started back in 2006, so we have a very rich mobile marketing legacy. Uh, we in fact used to be called MNC Sachi Mobile, but obviously in the 20 years that have passed since, we have kind of grown and evolved to uh, work with brands across the digital landscape and tailoring our services. A little bit about myself. I have been with the agency for 8+ years across the India market as well as the Indonesia market. And in my current role as client partner, I help service a lot of Indian and regional clients um, to kind of grow their business. Um, Along with me, also we have Elise, who I've interacted with a lot during my 8 years at MNC Sachi Performance. Um, uh, Elise is a senior manager at Moloco, and brings she helps bring a sharp view into how AI, machine learning, and the entire in-app ecosystem that Moloco has kind of helped open up for advertising. Right? She can help us understand how that can open up new growth opportunities for your brand. But I think more than me talking about it, I think it's better, Elise, if you can just share your view in terms of what you do at Moloco, how what you're focused on these days, and maybe like a fun fact about yourself.
Sure. Thanks for the introduction, Najikit. So, I'm a senior growth manager at Moloco, and in my role, I have the opportunity to partner with consumer app companies. I help them to drive scalable growth through mobile programmatic advertising. And these days, I find myself tinkering a lot with AI. So, very apt on this topic that we're talking about today. Not just to gain efficiency for myself, but also helping them to actually gain insights and optimizations for the campaigns. So, a little fun fact about myself, I ended up majoring in mass communication because I watched so much TV when I was young. Yep.
Nice. That's good to know. A fun fact about myself is I like puzzles. Anyway, so we'll we can get started. I think just a quick agenda in terms of what we're going to talk about today, which is we are just going to talk about how, like I mentioned, AI is rewriting the marketing funnel. Um, what is changing in terms of your channel mix? What is changing in terms of your search layer? Um, where in-app advertising is specifically can help create new growth. And going to the last part of the funnel, right? There's obviously a lot of people that are relying on AI not just to make the buying decision, but to carry out the entire process. So what kind of um, agentic commerce means for conversions? But I think before we get into our agenda, it'll be great to get some input from the audience. Obviously, Elise has shared her view. I've shared a little bit about my view. It'll be great to get your opinion in terms of what do you think, where do you think AI is creating the biggest disruption for marketers right now? And you'll see a small polls tab there. So, um, yeah, you can just kind of select whatever you feel is creating the biggest disruption for marketers right now. I see a few people. It's actually quite evenly split, although there is a higher percentage of people right now that have voted for fewer clicks from traditional search. Right after I said that, more people voted for that. I don't know if it was psychological, but yeah. So I think we have some interesting results, and I think two things stand out um, very clearly, right? One is fewer clicks from traditional search, so people feel that um, uh, the marketers on this forum feel that people are kind of skipping the traditional Google search journey, which has been a big part of digital marketing for the past 25 years. And there are also a lot of people that have voted for um, rising pressure to diversify beyond search and social. So um, again, I think really important, and clearly people are um, using inputs from different mediums, right? I think it'll uh, work very well with some of the suggestions that we have later on in the in the deck. And maybe, yeah, I think Elise, I'll just start with um, a question to you, right? And obviously we had some really interesting results on that poll, but we understand that um, we understand that Moloco recently partnered with BCG on a report that looks at how AI is disrupting the consumer journey across different verticals, right? From what you're seeing, and obviously we heard from the marketers in the room right now, but from what you're seeing, what is the biggest shift marketers need to pay attention to? Um, Traditional discovery channels like search and SEO, are they starting to break, or are they just being forced to evolve?
Yes, this is a very interesting piece of research that we did together with BCG. So as you know, we're living in very exciting times, and whenever something revolutionary comes about, people's behavior inevitably shifts. So as a consumer myself, I'm also part of that change. So let me walk you through our findings with BCG and how AI is disrupting the consumer journey. So recently, I took a trip to Japan with the recommendation of AI. So, in the past, what I used to do is I would start with search. I would open multiple tabs, looking across blogs, communities, travel platforms, like looking for recommendations and suggestions on, what are the things I can do, where are the places that, I should be staying in, where are the good restaurants that I should definitely try out. So I would compare prices, check reviews, and that whole process actually took days or even weeks. But right now with AI, I can do that all at once. So you can see here, I enter my budget, I enter my preferences, my schedule, and just at one click, maybe just 3 minutes, I get my accommodations, I get my restaurants and attractions organized all in one place. So as you can see, a single conversation right now takes you from discovery to comparison to decision making. And I'm sure many of you here already have similar experiences as myself. So this shift is changing the entire journey from exploration to decision making, and it's not just happening in travel. Consumers are increasingly turning to AI first when making decisions, and even when it comes to financial services. And so it goes. This is the heart of the disruption that many industries are grappling with today. To understand the implications, we have partnered with BCG to analyze these shifts in behavior and the impact on digital brands. So, what the research finds is that the biggest shifts in AI today isn't technological, it's actually behavioral. So, put another way, AI isn't just changing work, it is actually changing behavior. So, people are finding new ways to discover, to research, and purchase products and services. So, today I'm going to share some of these research findings with you. So, a few numbers that I think reframe how we should be thinking about brand discovery. So, like me, 1/3 of US adults now discover brands through AI. And although this number is still small, this is the largest shift in discovery that we have seen in decades. So, we also see this phenomenon known as Google Zero. So, today, 80% of Google searches end without a click when the AI overview is present. So the page underneath never gets visited, and that surface is compressing fast. So 47% of consumers have used AI to actually make a purchase decision. And LLM is becoming that entity that shapes whether a potential customer has heard of your brand or product and how they think about it. So that's a new kind of visibility problem. And while we're just at the beginning of this new world of agentic commerce, 30% of consumers are already feeling comfortable letting AI make purchases on their behalf. So this means that the traditional search to click to conversion pipeline that we have long relied on and thinking about for the longest time is actually structurally weakening. So over here, what we see is a general overview of where each vertical stands in the age of AI disruption. On the bottom axis, that represents the strength of customer relationship, and on the right axis, that represents the risk of AI disruption. So starting with the bottom right, what we call the quadrant 1, the breach quadrant, this includes industries like auto, travel, news, e-commerce. So if you're in this quadrant, you're already feeling it. AI has compressed discovery into a single answer. So consumers ask Perplexity for travel recommendations and they book directly. They ask ChatGPT for product reviews and they never visit your site. Quadrant 2 is what we call undefended. Examples include Gen AI, gaming, and dating. These companies are currently safe from their core service being replaced by AI because an AI can't date, an AI can't play a game for you, but they're still vulnerable because they don't truly own their customers. And on the bottom right, quadrant 3, the contested. So it has productivity companies as a defining example. So these companies have durability because they're embedded in workflows. Switching costs, habits, trust, these are real moats. And on the top quadrant, you see like uh, verticals like social, media, financial services, fintech. So these are the ones that actually have a good relationship, but they have a stronghold in terms of like services because the AI can't replace their service. But in terms of customer relationship, I think this is something that they need to work on as well. So it's clear that disruption isn't evenly distributed. And while you can't have control over what AI actually changes next, but you do have the ability to actually form and create real direct relationships with your customers. And so if you're interested to actually read more, feel free to scan that QR code to actually find out more about this entire report. So moving on, what you can see here, the disruption isn't just about where customers spend their time. It's about the channels you're paying to reach them through. So we analyze the full acquisition channel landscape with BCG, and it breaks into two clear camps. So one, the disrupted channels, and the other one, the stable ones. Disrupted channels includes things like paid search, display, affiliate marketing, and stable supply includes in-app advertising, social media, email, CRM, retail media, CTV. So globally, around 35% of acquisition channels are in the high disruption zones, and 65% belong to the stable zone.
Awesome. No, I think thanks so much, Elise, for sharing some of those nuggets, right, um, from the BCG and Moloco AI report. And I think it's obviously, like Elise mentioned, you can download the entire report. But one thing that I'd like to just um, kind of comment on, right? Like Elise mentioned, the travel example is a great one, and obviously it applies to multiple different industries, right? But that's a great use case because if you think about it, AI is actually the world's most patient research assistant, right? You can kind of uh, keep going back and keep asking to make changes, and it never kind of uh, slows down or gets irritated, right? Which is obviously a more human reaction. But because I think the research uh, is so much more well thought through, right? And it looks at so many different sources. I think that's a big part to focus on. Right. As this landscape is shifting, I think just to kind of throw it back to the audience, um, we're back with another poll, and I think here, just kind of picking up from the first question, where do you see the biggest opportunity to rethink your channel mix in the AI era? Obviously, the first option kind of syncs very well with some of the answers we had in the first poll, but it will be good to understand from you in terms of where do you as a marketer feel that this is the biggest opportunity to rethink your channel mix. Right? Very well. I think we have one option that's uh, the most voted by a lot of people, and then there's a few votes for each of the others. But clearly capturing and using stronger first party signals, that's where you as marketers feel that's the biggest opportunity to kind of rethink your channel mix in the AI era. And yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense, right? Um, um, in in terms of where we're going as well, right? With a lot of kind of data privacy coming into the mix, with a lot, maybe less traffic coming directly to your website, which was earlier coming in through organic channels, with more and more people kind of doing research. It's more interesting to see um, how we will evolve as an industry to kind of capture and use um, stronger first party signals. Think in general, just kind of to move on from that, right? And uh, talk a little bit about, say, the start of the channel mix, or the first part of the funnel, right? Which is discovery. Um, One element that we as marketers must start to think about a lot more is generative engine optimization, right? Or kind of optimizing for your brand, your website, or your app across each of the LLMs, whether that's ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or another LLM, right? And just a few points to focus on is obviously, it's not like SEO is dead, right? SEO is still like a big part of the foundation, but it is no longer enough. Um, US brand must have seen more and more traffic coming in from sources outside of the traditional Google search discovery journey. And what's important is that AI, while you still need to optimize, right, for your brand to kind of rank first or in the top three or in the top five or top 10, AI engines function slightly differently. They don't look at just who is ranking first, right? They also look for consistent mentions, right? Like which brands are consistently mentioned, um, which brands are consistently validated, right? And they're supported across multiple trusted sources, right? The traditional journey where you maybe had someone searching for your brand, you had like a good amount of Google reviews or Play Store reviews or App Store reviews. That's no longer enough, right? It is a much more layered piece. The other thing is all brands until now have been optimizing mainly to be searchable. Uh, I think this needs to change to brands becoming more and more citable, right? Because the uh, goal is not to maybe answer the query that is coming from a user. It is to be included within the answer itself, right? As an option or as the best option or as one of the options. So this essentially means creating content that AI tools can easily understand, extract, and quote. Um, Most importantly, consistency matters, right? So you need to have the same kind of descriptions, profiles, and information sharing across your website, across your LinkedIn page, uh, across different directories, across a press release, um, uh, monitoring review platforms to ensure that kind of you obviously can't be saying something on your website and it isn't backed up at all by user reviews on a forum like Reddit, for example. The other thing is optimizing towards full answers and not just for a keyword. So instead of just creating like very uh, thin, very keyword stuff pages, brands should build more stronger, right? Like more kind of clustered content around questions and answers. Um, Most importantly, we need to look at building presence beyond just your own website. So a lot of a big part of GEO is AI tools looking at credible third-party sources like industry directories, review platforms, and I think this is where things are a little different because a lot of SEO success was measured by rankings, backlinks, traffic, and CTR. A lot of GEO success is actually measured by citation frequency and brand mention. So just like a key difference, right, when you think about SEO versus GEO, um, structure content for machine extraction. So all of the AI tools, right, they need to be able to clearly read your headings. They need to have um, clearly define short direct answers, focus sections, a Q&A section, FAQ schema, and so on. And most importantly, I think when you start with any activity, right, the measure of success, right, which is measurement, that needs to be measured differently. Your Google search console alone, it will not tell you whether your brand is being cited in on Chat GPT or Gemini or Perplexity. Perplexity. You need to start tracking citation frequency differently, and also start looking at stuff like answer share, obviously AI-driven traffic, and visibility across different LLM platforms. So that was just a quick snippet in terms of things to start keeping in mind when you are looking at the discovery part of the funnel. And I think that leads me to my next question for Elise is is if AI is making discovery more and more compressed, um, and traditional channels are kind of becoming more crowded, then where can brands find meaningful growth? One idea that stands out is that customers are not always present where brands assume they are, right? Um, for example, a fintech user is not like we tend to think as brands and marketers. We sometimes tend to think of things as contextual only. That oh, if it is a fintech app user, they will be present only in a fintech app. If they are a gaming app uh, customer, they will be present only within gaming apps. But how should marketers think about growth differently?
Exactly. And that's the key question that we want to build on today. Marketers today definitely need to rethink their strategies and reconsider how and where they can actually reach their ideal customers. Because the user is already out there across apps, across categories, across moments you might not expect. So let me walk you through key strategies marketing leaders are focusing on in the era of AI disruption. Key concrete pillars we have, starting with how to rethink your channel mix, and then how to turn your customer data into a real strategic asset, and finally, why your mobile app is one of the most important growth levers. Let's get into it. As AI reshapes consumer discovery, marketers are increasingly focused on three key areas to navigate the challenges that AI is bringing. So, number one, diversifying their channel mix. Number two, capturing first party data signals. Number three, strengthening own digital environments to build long term brand defensibility. So, if you're here and you have yet to start thinking about these, you should. So let's visit the disruption by channel slide and focus on the channels that are holding their share of attention in the age of AI. So remember how we talked about 65% of channels are stable channels. So things like in-app marketing, email, CRM, e-commerce, and retail media, CTV. So these are the channels that continue to remain strong. At the same time, AI is making customer journeys shorter and changing how people discover and buy products. So as we saw in the disruption by industry index, this change is especially significant across consumer industries. For marketers, the takeaway is focus on the channels that continue to reach and engage consumers effectively. Building strength in these resilient channels today can create a lasting advantage for you as AI continues to reshape the market. So therefore, there is a real need to rebalance your channel mix. Despite disrupted channels hitting a ceiling and smartphone usage being higher than ever, mobile is still massively underleveraged. So let me give you some numbers that really showcase the opportunity that we have in apps. So first, we see that only 6 seconds of every mobile minute is spent in a browser. The other 54 seconds, which is 90% of the time, is spent in apps. Second, Southeast Asia remains one of the world's largest mobile-first markets. So in 2025, last year, the region generated over 18.1 billion downloads, ranking number 2 globally in both downloads and time spent. So therefore, the opportunity is clear. Brands need to rebalance their channel mix toward mobile, but simply being present in mobile isn't enough. The real challenge is that consumers don't just spend their time in just one or two apps anymore. Their attention is spread across dozens of different apps, different interests, and moments throughout the day. So, taking digital first banking users in Singapore as an example, marketers assume that these users primarily engage with financial apps. However, the data tells us a different story. When we look at digital first banking users in Singapore, or what we call neobankers, we see that their attention extends far beyond just finance. So, compared to the general population, they spend significantly more time in a diverse range of app categories. For example, they're spending around like 100% more time on weather apps, around 80% more time than the general in health and fitness apps, 65% more time in travel apps, and 43% more time in education apps. So, what's interesting is that no single category dominates their attention. Instead, their engagement is distributed across multiple interests and everyday needs, indicating that consumer attention is far more fragmented than what we assume. So consumers no longer fit neatly into traditional audience segments. Their attention is fragmented across a much broader app ecosystem than most marketers assume. So that's why traditional targeting approaches are becoming less effective. And reaching the right audience today isn't about guessing which app category they belong to, it's about identifying them wherever they are. And that's exactly what we do at Moloco, because we know that consumers are no longer concentrated in a handful of apps, and their attention is spread across thousands of apps and digital moments. And that's why the independent app ecosystem is key to finding the right users and scaling your app. So the term independent advertising ecosystem may sound unfamiliar at first, but simply put, this refers to the advertising environment made up of the many everyday apps that people use outside of big tech platforms like Google and Meta, which we call the walled gardens. So this includes many of the apps that people use every day across messaging, it can be across education, social networking, lifestyle, and more. And through Molocos, advertisers can efficiently reach users across this diverse app ecosystem. The value of the independent app ecosystem isn't just that it gives marketers access to more apps or more reach. It actually gives you access to high value users as well. Consumer app marketers who diversified beyond Google and Meta into the independent app ecosystem actually saw up to 116 higher day 30 ROAS compared to those who kept spend concentrated in walled gardens. So that diversification is the advantage, and this is what you should be thinking about today. But some would say, oh, finding high value users across fragmented app ecosystem is like finding a needle in a haystack. And that's where AI makes the difference. Not every advertising partner can do this well. And I would tell you, finding high value, high quality users is like finding a needle in a haystack. It's an incredibly difficult challenge, but this is exactly where Moloco's AI excels. Some platforms will tell you they use AI. What matters is what the AI is actually optimizing for. So at Moloco, we actually process around 1 trillion ad opportunities every single day. We serve less than 1% of them as actual impressions. And that selectivity is intentional. Every time we choose not to bid, we are making a prediction that the user isn't worth your money right now. And every time we do bid, we are making the opposite prediction that this specific user for your specific app is worth acquiring. So the model isn't shared across all advertisers, it's actually tuned to your app's definition of value.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Elise, for that input. And I think I would just kind of like to add to that, because it's a very relevant point that you made, and just maybe um, uh, using the same example, right, that you used of a bank, right, and a potential banking customer. I think a lot of times we as marketers tend to have a very linear approach that, oh, I want to target this um, working HNI working professional, um, and LinkedIn is where I should reach out to them, right? Um, that's where my targeting can be the most efficient and so on. But if you start to think of this persona um, beyond just their direct work habits, right, and you try to think a little bit about what their daily habits may look like. For example, uh, of course, this person could be present on LinkedIn, but they could be using five different apps, right? They could maybe um, go in and check the pollution around them on an AQI app. They might be taking a flight later in the day, so they might be on a weather app looking at the weather of the destination that they're flying to. They might be on a currency exchange app, right, to see what the rate differences between their home country currency and their travel country currency. So I think if you start thinking about this customer and look at their human behavior and where they are spending time in app, it is it is a very varied journey. And like Ellie's mentioned, right, there are trillions of such opportunities, right? We are obviously aware of uh, the largest apps in the world are something that we're all aware of. For example, whether it's Uber or Grab for transit, um, and other such examples. But there are hundreds and thousands of smaller apps which are being used from a utility perspective, and your customer is present in these apps, right? Even if it doesn't necessarily have to be a fintech app for a fintech customer. So just kind of wanted to highlight this, and this is why in-app advertising matters a lot, right? You can see the kind of data and details on the screen in front of you. And just to kind of call out a couple of those numbers, you can see how CPL is increased by average, uh, the growth of in-app advertising over the next 2 to 3 years, and some of the top categories by ad revenue. I think to understand a little bit more about one of the points that was um, raised as an area of concern as well by the marketers in this room is um, at least first party data is talked about a lot, right? And a lot of brands actually struggle to activate first party data at scale. So how can marketers turn behavioral signals across the full user journey into real targeting and like real optimization outcomes?
Right. The key is to actually stop thinking about first party data as just a static audience list and start treating it as a training data for AI models. So, behavior signals across the full user journey should be meaningfully tracked and shared with Moloco. For example, installs, app opens, registrations, purchases, deposits, repeat purchases, login, service usage, revenue events. So I've nearly named like the entire funnel. So these signals, all of these actually help the AI to understand what actually predicts value for each business. And when I say meaningfully tracked, I mean mapping the user journey to real business value. So it's not just about optimizing only for the easiest event to measure, but identifying the milestones that truly matter to your business. AI transforms these first party signals into actionable intelligence, helping marketers identify high value audiences, improve decision making, and drive stronger business outcomes. And now I'll share how customers are turning the valuable first party data acquired through in app advertising with Moloco into actionable growth signals and insights. So once we acquire users through in-app advertising, brands gain valuable user insights that can be used to improve both campaign performance and overall business outcomes. The behavioral data from acquired users, such as how they engage, how they convert and return, becomes a critical foundation for deeper analysis and performance optimization as well. In other words, in-app advertising is not just a channel for user acquisition, it also helps brands build richer customer intelligence and turn first-party data into smarter growth strategies. So sharing here two examples of how these key customers in the consumer sector manage to use their first-party data smartly into successful acquisition campaigns with Moloco. So, taking the example of this major commerce platform in Singapore, they actually turn key behavioral signals such as registration, first purchase, app open, and purchase frequency into MMP events that they can leverage to look for similar high quality users. And with that, it actually helped them to acquire 15 times scan installs while maintaining their CAC KPI. And in the second case of this rideshare app in Vietnam, they actually use key signals like booking type, booking frequency, inactivity duration, and drop off point data to analyze user behavior across cities in Vietnam. And they discovered that there are different trends between users from different places. With that, they are able to use Moloco to target at specific labs users and also acquire new users on both country and city level.
Thanks so much, Elise. And just picking up on that, right? Like we've obviously spoken a lot about how brands can reach and engage with consumers in the AI era. But uh, if we could just understand a little bit about how do you stay relevant after that, right? After reaching and engaging with customers and that first interaction, how can brands stay relevant after that?
Yep, that's a good question. So we learned about how to best acquire users and how to leverage the data generated from them in the AI era. So the last strategy is to invest in the stickiest digital surface that you control, and that's your mobile app. According to the forward-looking CMOs that we interviewed, this is something that they are focusing on to navigate the impacts of AI. So at the same time, I think this is the easiest level and also the most valuable asset that you actually own. When apps are logged in, they can be personalized with first party data. You can use notifications to deepen relationships to bring users back. And they also provide paths to diversify user acquisition away from search and LLMs. So, investing in these small things close the loop to engage the new users that you bring in, strengthening and building their loyalty at the same time.
All right, and I think that was very insightful. Um, and maybe I'll just talk a little bit more um, about the last part of the funnel, right? Because it's only natural that uh, as we move from awareness to consideration to conversion, um, I think conversion is always the end business objective, um, irrespective of what stage of market your brand is at. And I think this is the part of the funnel that has actually changed the most and um, gets talked about the least, right? Because uh, earlier on, right, there was a lot of consideration, retargeting, repeat frequency, and we could nudge people towards the decision. With product comparisons and AI, that traditional funnel and that traditional journey is is long gone, right? Um, and for brands, it needs to be a lot less about persuasion and a lot more about proof. I think that's the key takeaway um, uh, from from what we've seen so far and how this is already working. Because the moment somebody is interested in your brand or your product, um, there was a time when we could completely control that journey, right? They are staying within the ecosystem of your website. They are looking at your social channels. The moment now someone is interested, they're um, opening 5 different tabs and researching and reviewing and asking like an AI uh, tool to summarize the options, right? So they form a view long before they've actually tested the product themselves. There was a time when marketers, it was a lot easier for a brand, right, and us as marketers to get someone to test our product or brand for the first time. That has become a lot more difficult now because it has become a lot more proof based. And this is where you have to ensure that your marketing promise syncs through with what your brand and product is actually delivering, right? So um, the evidence has to live where people are actually looking. Reviews, ratings, third party comparisons, real life customer experiences, testimonials, and a lot of credible mentions across the web, right? Without proof, um, it will be very difficult for you to lower your first time customer acquisition cost. um, and other people need to say it, right? If I think it's just the only place where you're saying you're good is your own website, you kind of already lost this stage. The second thing is consistency. um, it's very important that there is a sync between what's happening on your brand platforms, um, and what's happening in a press mention, because an AI summary kind of has takes in all of this information and lines it up in a certain way. So the moment that those signals contradict each other, it will lead to a drop in trust and eventually a fluctuation in your conversion rates. And the third and most important point is of course, uh, you have to design the content, right, and design all information in a way where you're feeding the machines that are actually summarizing your brand. So AI tools are increasingly doing this on the customer's behalf, and therefore your structuring of your product reviews, your video content, any marketing content, and so on, it has to be structured in a way where it is easy to extract. It can't be a blank slate for the kind of technology that AI tools is using today, right? Because if your information is messy or thin, it'll you may end up getting completely skipped that part of the information, or there is a chance of misrepresentation. So eventually, I think for a brand to win this stage, they need to focus. Obviously, as marketers, we are very used to optimization and focusing on, okay, this is the ad and I need to improve the CTR by this percentage. But I think we need to take a more holistic approach, which and start managing the full body of evidence, right? That a well informed buyer looks at before purchasing the product. And I think that brings me to the last part or the last slide of our presentation, which is agentic commerce, right? We've obviously, until now, we've spoken about how um, consumers are leaning on AI tools and AI agents to help research and to help inform their decisions. But there is a small but growing percentage that is completely automating these decisions to AI, and this is where the entire function of retail media is changing. Uh, and these are the factors to keep in mind. Again, conversion is moving less from click to buy, and it's moving to data to decision. Right, the conversion moment is becoming less visual, and it's also taking into elements like it's becoming more and more computational, right? So it's not about just about whether like a person likes your ad. It's also about whether an AI system, right, or an AI agent acting on behalf of a consumer has enough confidence in your product data, availability, pricing, and so on, right, to recommend you. Um, Retail media also needs to evolve beyond just paid placements, right? It's not just about um, being the first listing on an e-commerce or quick commerce app, and it's not just about being visible on the first shelf in a supermarket, right? It's about um, things that go beyond just that visibility, right? Your overall stock, how your price compares to other options, what are the product attributes, what are your reviews like, right? AI agents take all of these factors into consideration a lot more and a lot more quickly. So marketers need to start optimizing more for recommendability, right? Not just like, oh, did they click on my ad? But what does an AI agent see when they compare my option or my product versus what else is out there in terms of competition? Um, Beyond ROAS, right, which has obviously been a big source of truth when we think about media efficiency and marketing efficiency. Uh, we need to start looking beyond just initial ROAS and also start looking at how many customers are coming back, right? What is the LTV value, and whether the product actually fulfilled the promise. Uh, and I think most importantly, this will in a world where decisions are becoming partially automated, right? If not completely automated, um, your it is more and more important for your brand to actually stand out, right? So it is more and more important for your brand values to be defined, for those to come out clearly, for that to be the trust layer, right? So if an AI recommends a product, the consumer still needs to be confident that, oh yes, I have heard of this brand, and I'm sure that although this agent has done all the research, I also have a an intuition or a feeling that this brand will deliver what they have promised, right? So the brand is less of a hook and it's more of a safety net after to kind of help re-verify the decision. Um, yeah, I think before we maybe move to like one or two quick questions, um, Elise, if there is anything you want to say to summarize things, right? Like in terms of how brands and advertisers should leverage AI to look for their ideal customers.
Sure. So I think we all know AI draws from big data, and today's high value users interact with a diverse range of apps, as we talked about earlier. And for each app category, there we have seen that there are power users who have their unique fingerprint across seemingly unrelated apps. And what we have observed is that different users rely on different apps throughout the day, with each app session presenting a distinct emotional or functional context. So, for example, finance apps are often checked in the morning for market updates, while sports apps see a traffic spike in the evening when games are live or scores are updated. These moments influence how receptive users are to certain types of ads and how likely they are to take action. So at Moloco, our AI trains on your first party data combined with these contextual signals to predict where your next high value user might be. Keeping a diverse inventory, I would say, is key to maximizing performance because new app users can come from surprising places. For example, a finance app's next high value user might convert from a gaming, weather, or recipe app, not just other finance apps. Conversions happen across every category. So I would summarize it to say that, let's leverage AI by keeping it wide and not limiting it.
So, no, I think very well summarized, and I think we maybe just have enough time. I'm just checking. We maybe just have time to try and do um, one or two questions, and um, I'm just going to try and read this out. Um, okay. How should brands rethink success metrics when discovery is happening inside AI answers and zero click environment? So I can maybe try and take that and I can help provide a view. And I think uh, success metrics, right? Like the answer to this, there is no one single answer. But uh, my view is that um, one of the ways to think about this is to essentially um, just go a little old school, right? So it's a mix of new school and old school. I think in terms of new school, it's really important to uh, keep a close eye on any AI referral traffic that's coming through the system, right? Whether that is 5% today, 10%, is it growing month on month? Do you see it flattening? Um, what does it look like, right? Because eventually the the click or visit, right? It was always just a proxy, right? It was always it was never the final success metric, right? It was always a proxy for someone trying to get more information and understand more information about the brand. Um, Now that they're already able to get that without kind of users needing to click through, right? It's part of an AI summary, or it's part of like um, a few suggestions generated by AI driven authority. The success metric needs to change to, are we being mentioned, right? Did the AI model mention us at all? Um, and therefore, are we able to be a part of the conversation, right? I think only when brands are able to be part of the conversation can they then try and um, redefine their communication to start influencing these customers, right? So I think the the click success metric has probably changed to presence within AI summaries and tracking that, and obviously seeing if there's any referral traffic coming through from that. I would say it's also important to look at it by different by each LLM differently, right? Um, while obviously Google has been a big market leader when it comes to search, the the AI landscape is a little bit more crowded, and there are a few players which are still battling amongst themselves, right, to become dominant and challengers. So it's important to look at each of these separately, right? Because um, again, chat gpt functions in a different way, perplexity functions in a different way. There are some that cite sources, some that don't cite sources, and so on. So yeah, I hope that helps add an initial view um, to that question. All right, I think we are just about out of time. We have a minute and 30 seconds to go. uh, I think happy to get feedback from the audience here, or via email or via comment on our social channels. Do let us know if there's anything you'd like to hear more of, see more of, hear less of um, from you. And yeah, I think that just about helps us wrap up. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time out to taking the time out of your busy day to attend this session. Obviously, um, this is AI is a topic where there's something new happening every day and every week, right? So it's great to kind of be able to have this chat and uh, understand firsthand from a marketing audience. And thank you so much, Elise. I think I'd also, on behalf of MNC Sachi Performance, like to thank you and the Moloco team for kind of helping collaborate and design this session.
Most welcome, Nachikit. I think it was really great to be able to join this session. Thank you so much for having us to be able to share what we have learned from the BCG study. So, yeah, I also at the same time like to thank the audience for taking time out to be with us here this afternoon. And I hope you walked away with insightful knowledge. Hopefully, it was good for you guys.
All right. Thank you so much.